and welcome back to my channel. I'm Andrea. It's nice to have you guys here. For those who are new, I'm an indie author. I'm gonna have to get used to this. I've got 6 books out. These are 2 of them, and these are 2 that we're going to be talking about today. Yeah, so The Inn of Hopes and Dreams is now out. It launched yesterday. This is the newest book baby, and this is book 2 in my Independent Heart series. The Bookshop of Possibilities is book 1. So I thought it might be fun because I put the publishing day vlog up on YouTube yesterday today as I'm filming this video. So this is gonna be a quick turnaround for this one. But yeah, I published the publishing vlog behind the scenes of everything that went into publishing or hitting publish and then leading up to launch day for The Inn of Hopes and Dreams. And I just thought, since that video is gonna go up on Thursday, which isn't one of my usual upload days for YouTube, what was I gonna put up on Friday, which is one of my usual upload days. So I had the idea to do a Independent Hearts themed Q&A. I have not done a Q&A in years. Mostly because it's nerve-wracking to put out a call for questions and then not get any. So I was a little bit nervous, but thankfully several of you did have questions. So that's what we're going to go over. So I put up questions or a call for questions on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. And I got several questions. So I've got a cup of coffee and I have a little bit of time to film this before I have to go get to work. So I asked for questions related to The Inn of Hopes and Dreams, the Bookshop of Possibilities, or the Independent Heart series and my writing process for them in general. And several of you had some really good questions. So I'm going to start with Ashley from the channel A Ginger Writes. If you're looking for a new AuthorTube channel to follow, I would highly recommend Ashley. And she asked 3 questions. She said at the end, I hope you don't mind me asking 3. Feel free to pick and choose. I'm gonna answer all of them. Question number 1, when did you know that this would be the 2nd book of your Independent Heart series? Did you always have an inkling of the order of the first 2 books, or was it after you wrote the first? I knew from the beginning that there were going to be multiple books in the series and that each book would be a different woman in this town. So for those who aren't familiar, the Independent Heart series is a small town romance series. Romantic women's fiction, there is definitely romance in each of them, but there's also a lot that the female characters go through, lessons they have to learn. So I think there's strong elements of women's fiction in the series as well. The title Independent Hearts is a play on words in that each woman is definitely an independent woman who does her own thing, lives her own life, doesn't need a man to complete her, but is looking for a little bit of romance. But then each woman also runs a small independent business in the small town that the series is set in. So the series is set in the small town of Olsenburg, Wisconsin, which is a fictional town, but it is based on a real town in Wisconsin, where my family is from. Each book is kind of set within one of those small indie businesses and then features the woman who runs that business. So the Bookshop of Possibilities features Catherine, who comes to town and ends up inheriting the family bookshop. And so it's set within this bookshop. That book was a dream to write because I'd love to own a bookshop one day. So I got to live vicariously through my character. Isn't that what writers do? Book 2 is about Lydia, and she has to take over the running of the Silver Stag Inn and Pub. So Lydia and the Silver Stag are featured in the Bookshop of Possibilities, and as I was writing it, I did kind of know. So yeah, answering Ashley's question, I did know that Lydia and the Silver Stag would be the 2nd book. I got the idea for the series pretty much in a flash of inspiration. The first 5 books kind of sprang to my mind fully formed. I knew book 1 would be the bookshop, book 2 would be the friend of the main character in book 1 and would take place in the inn and pub. At that point, I didn't know the name Lydia. I didn't know the name of the pub, but I kind of knew what the general conflict would be. Who would the main male character be? What would happen with them? So I do know what book 3, 4, and 5 will be. I'm not going to tell you which order, but you are getting to know the other 3 characters. So there's also Molly, whose family has a farm outside of town. There's Bryn, who has a pottery shop on the main street of Olsenburg, known as the High. And there's Elise, who has a candle shop, and her family also owns the hardware store across the street. I kind of knew there was actually, looking at my original notes, there was a different business, a knitting shop, that I thought would be part of the first 5. There will still be a knitting shop and someone who runs a knitting shop, but that's not going to be probably until maybe book 6 or 7. So the whole idea of this series is that it can just keep going. So at some point I want to do a knitting shop, a flower shop, one of the kind of ensemble cast. There's 2 grandmother characters. One owns an antique store and one owns a Christmas shop, and I definitely want to weave those in more, have maybe a younger woman come and help run each of them or something. So as I've been developing and outlining the story, I've been creating a wide ensemble cast outside of the primary characters that I know will become main characters, so that there's room for granddaughters or nieces to move to town. There's also a lot of guys, like brothers of the 5 main characters, who can become romantic interests. I've had more than an inkling of the first few books, but there's also room to develop things still. So great question, Ashley. Ashley's second question, do you ever feel like your characters have minds of their own, and are you simply just writing what they want you to write? I saw a meme once about writers just writing the incident reports of their characters, LOL. Yeah, I don't know that I'm completely, like, I don't know that it's that they are writing the story through me. I'm definitely in the driver's seat, but they are all backseat drivers. And this really comes into play when I start getting beta feedback. For the Inn of Hopes and Dreams, there was some beta feedback where people were like, well, what if Lydia does this? Or what if Lydia does that? And both Lydia and myself in my head were like, no, Lydia wouldn't do that. That's not how Lydia would react to that. And so that always tells me that I need to go back earlier in the book and kind of make that more clear, so that when you get to the action Lydia takes, you see, like, that's because this is just how her brain is wired. So yeah, they do have minds of their own. I'm still ultimately in control, but I do listen to my characters a lot and kind of pay attention to how they are developing. That's a big thing that I pay attention to with mine. I don't know that I'm always successful, but I try. And then Ashley's third question, do you have a favorite part of writing this series, or like a favorite thing? I don't know, just what is the favorite part of this series? This series is always very cozy to write. There's something about writing a small town romance. It's very light, it's very easy. Even when I'm dealing with more complicated topics, as I did in the Bookshop of Possibilities and in the Inn of Hopes and Dreams, you know, there are times where you're grappling with the things that your characters are grappling with, and so that can be a little emotional sometimes, but overall, it's very light, it's very easy, it's very comforting and cozy to write this series. All of the, you know, candle scents that I've used for both of these books, I used a candle called, I think it's just called Old Books for the Bookshop of Possibilities, and it smells like old books. I got it from a store here in Phoenix called Candle Chemistry. And then I was using from Target and the Threshold brand, Applewood and Amber. And that one had a crackling wood wick, and so burning those candles while I was writing, playing kind of countryside walk videos or the interiors of a cozy cabin with a fire going, or some of the virtual cafe videos on YouTube. There was one that just kind of became the coffee shop next door to the bookshop in my mind as I was writing the Bookshop of Possibilities. So I think my favorite part is just the cozy vibes that I get to create while I'm writing these books. I'm really looking forward to starting book 3, and it's always fun to kind of return to Olsenburg when I sit down to start outlining and writing these books. So yeah, I think just the coziness of them, and I hope, I've been told by readers, so this isn't just me saying this, but I really try to like infuse the books with those cozy vibes, and I really hope that readers pick up on that. I think you can read these books all year round, but there's definitely a very kind of cozy autumnal feel to them, especially the Inn of Hopes and Dreams, because I knew it was going to come out at this time of year, so I kind of did that intentionally. But yeah, coziness, that's my favorite thing about these. So then also on YouTube, Lauren asked, "Greetings, I was curious as to why you choose to self-publish rather than the traditional route, finding a book agent. Do you find it easier or better in some way?" This I could do a whole video on, and if you want me to, let me know and I will add that to my filming list. It's such a big topic, and I did a lot of research before I decided to self-publish. I did some research on the difference between self-publishing and traditional publishing and looked at kind of what I was wanting to do with the writing, where I wanted it to go. I would love one day to be in bookshops and in libraries, and you can do that as an indie author. It is a lot harder and a lot more work, and it is more expensive because you have to have your own ISBNs, and I don't currently do that. I use Amazon's free ISBN, but that means I can only publish my books through Amazon, so I am limited with that. For me, the biggest pro with self-publishing is you can do it for free. You can DIY the whole process. It is a challenge, but I was willing to take that on, so I do my own covers, I do my own formatting, I do all my own editing. I don't know that that is the right choice for everyone, and I do think that's something that you have to take in mind or keep in mind if you decide to self-publish. You are either going to be spending a lot of time learning how to do all of these elements yourself, or you're going to spend a lot of money hiring people to do that. I do have a background in art and design. It's way back in my history, but it is there. I also have a master's degree and a PhD in English with an emphasis in rhetoric and writing. So I felt like I could handle the editing and stuff like that on my own. It is very time consuming, but as time consuming as it is, if I had gone the traditional path, I might have an agent by now. If I'd started looking back in 2019, I might have an agent by now, and I might be getting a book deal by now, but I don't even know if I'd have my first book published yet. And the thought of spending potentially years just getting to the point of having a book deal, when, according to my research, I realized I could write and edit my book and publish it as soon as it was ready, I just wanted to get the books out. I have so many stories in my head. I've got 6 books out now, but I am almost done writing the 7th. I am outlining the 8th, and I'm about to start developing the 9th book. And then I've got multiple books after that. Like the Independent Heart series is gonna go on for several books. I've probably got 8 or 9 books total in my head right now, but it could go further. The Across the Pond series, I've got another 4 or 5 books for sure that I know for that series based on the existing characters, but then more could develop. The book I'm currently almost finished writing, I have 2 more books for sure in that series. It's going to be a new series, a royal romance series, which I'm excited about. But then I know there could be a 4th book and so on. So there's probably about 6 books total that I know right now I could write for that series. I don't want to be keeping all of these books in my head because I'm being held back by a publisher schedule. So when you traditionally publish, from the research I've done and from the stories I've heard, you're limited to how many books the publisher wants. You're limited to how quickly and how frequently they want to publish your books. And so I think that's why we find more hybrid authors popping up who traditionally publish some of their books but then self-publish others so that they can just kind of publish on their own schedule. So I haven't ruled out going the traditional path one day. I do have a first draft of a manuscript for book 1 of a fantasy series, and I've been on the fence about maybe trying to traditionally publish that, since it would be a whole new series, a different pen name, a whole new genre. So we'll see how things go in the future with that. But for my romance books, it just, for a variety of reasons, trying to sum this up. I just felt like self-publishing would be the better path for me, but I definitely wouldn't say that it's easier. I think writing and publishing a book is hard no matter which path you take, but I haven't ruled out traditional publishing. I think it would be fun. It'd be an interesting challenge to try it at some point and just see how I do, see what happens. But yeah, I could talk a lot more on this topic, so let me know. Then the last question from YouTube by Mason, what app do you use? I know you use Scrivener, but what else? I use quite a few for different things, and I did do a video on my favorite digital tools for writing and self-publishing. I will try to remember to link that somewhere, but Scrivener is definitely my favorite. I love Scrivener. I will always love Scrivener. It just works with my brain. It works with how my brain plots and organizes and writes. So Scrivener's not going anywhere. Other apps. There is one that I'm going to be talking about very soon, so I will mention it by name here. I have been starting to use a program called Babisco, and I'm really excited to share more about Babisco in a future video. So just as a disclaimer, and I'll explain this all when I talk about it more, I was approached by the developer of Babisco and was given a license for the full paid version for free for the purposes of reviewing it. But yeah, first impressions, it's not that expensive. I would totally pay for it. It could be a replacement for Scrivener for some people. It could be where you do all of your book development and writing work. I don't think it's replacing Scrivener completely for me, although I will be using it throughout NaNoWriMo and just seeing how it works compared to Scrivener for the purpose of a bigger review video I've got planned later, but I will be mentioning it probably in one of the next 2 vlogs, so stay tuned. I've been really liking Babisco for character development. Yeah, I can't wait to tell you guys more. So if you want to look it up before I get to talk about it in more detail, check out Babisco. You can find it online on YouTube. There's some great tutorials, but I will be doing a couple videos featuring it, at least one vlog and at least one designated like full review video, but there will be first impressions coming very soon in a vlog. And yeah, I think going forward it could be a tag team for me of both Scrivener and Babisco, but you could just use Babisco if, for those of you, because I know some of you don't like Scrivener. So yeah, so stay tuned for more details on that. It's definitely something I want to do a whole video about, but since you asked, I thought I would mention it in this video. Babisco, it's climbing up the ranks of apps I'm not sure I will be able to write my books without. Then switching over to Instagram, I had a few questions on there. So Janelle, my dear friend Janelle, asked, do you ever write characters based on people you know? Yes, I do. I do write characters based on people I know or based on real people who I don't know, but I then usually will change things. Often it's more that a character is a composite of multiple people I know rather than is just like exactly one person. So all of the grannies in the Independent Heart series, Granny Ingrid, Granny Clarice, who you don't really see that much because they're no longer living at the start of the series, but then Granny Janice and Granny Grace are definitely based on my own grandmothers. The main characters of my books are always slightly based on me. So there's definitely an element of myself in my characters. The main male characters are usually based loosely on certain celebrity crushes I have. So yeah, the characters are based on people I know, but not like recognizably so. I don't think that someone who knows me and my life really well would be like, oh, she's totally writing about that person. I would never want it to be that obvious. But yeah, I do use real people as kind of starting points for my characters. Jackie asks, most enjoyable and most challenging writing moments? I think the challenge is always in the very, very beginning when you're still developing the ideas and figuring out the main arc of the plot, creating brand new characters. So The End of Hopes and Dreams features a main male character that was not seen in the first book. So creating his personality, figuring out his relationship and his dynamic with Lydia was definitely a challenge. I mean, these are exciting challenges, but they're definitely challenges. And those are kind of the moments that can sometimes have me beating my head against the desk, just like, is this ever going to work? Is this ever going to fit? And so those are definitely the challenges, like just getting started and figuring out the characters and the plot and getting the train kind of moving on the tracks. But then the most enjoyable is definitely once the train is moving on the tracks and you're picking up speed and you've gotten to know the characters and they're along for the ride and the story is just kind of revealing itself. You know, I have very detailed outlines when I write, but then to kind of have a moment where something new pops into my head and it feels like I can't type fast enough. Like the ideas are just coming so fast that it's just flowing through me and out my fingertips onto the keyboard. That's when you get that kind of writer's high. Like you hear people talk about a runner's high. I think there's such a thing as a writer's high, and that's when I feel it, when it's just, I look down and I realize I've written 1,000 words in like 20 minutes because it's just coming out of me that quickly. I think writers know what I'm talking about, and it's just the most incredible feeling when you get that. It's almost like my subconscious. It's not me consciously writing anymore. It's like something else within me is just writing that, and those are just incredible moments. And then the last question by Nat, you mentioned that Olsenburg is based on a real place. Are any of the characters based on real people? So this kind of goes back to Janelle's question, but yes. So the grannies, as I mentioned in Janelle's question, the grannies are definitely based on my own grandmothers, particularly my great-grandmother, Leela, who is the grandmother who is from the town of Mineral Point where Olsenburg is kind of based on and inspired by. So there's a lot of things related to the grannies that kind of are related to my grandma Leela. So the fact that they're all called Granny and they're known as the grannies of Olsenburg is kind of inspired by her. My grandma Leela was known and loved by a lot of people in Mineral Point while she was alive. She just was so active in the community and knew so many people that she was Grandma Leela to a lot of people. So just as Granny Ingrid is referred to as Granny Ingrid by everyone in the town, and there's a line in the Bookshop of Possibilities where Catherine asks, like, you call her Granny Ingrid as well, like, are we related somehow? It was that way with my Grandma Leela. So we'd come to visit and we'd go around town, like going shopping and stuff, and people would ask who we were visiting, and we'd say, oh, we're visiting Leela, and oh, Grandma Leela, how's she doing? It's like, are we cousins? Like, because she was my great-grandmother. My dad has several aunts and uncles also from the area, and some still living in that area. So it is a high possibility that I could run into, you know, second and third cousins whenever I go back to visit. But there were just a lot of people that knew her and loved her and called her Grandma Leela as well. So the grannies are definitely inspired by that. I think other characters, I think the grannies are the biggest ones of this series. I don't know that many other characters are specifically based on real people, but book one just ended up really being about grandmothers, and as I created the grannies, I knew I wanted them to be a big part of the series. So yeah, so those are the questions. I hope you've enjoyed this and getting to know the books a little bit better. So The Inn of Hopes and Dreams is out now in paperback, Kindle, and you can read for free if you subscribe to Kindle Unlimited. And for the moment, it started yesterday as you're watching this, if you're watching this on Friday, the Kindle version of the Bookshop of Possibilities is currently on sale in the US and the UK. It is $1.99 in the US and it is £1.99 in the UK. So if you haven't picked up your Kindle copy of the Bookshop of Possibilities, you can get that on a discount for the next 6 days. So it's 1 week starting from Thursday, October 27th when it went live. So yeah, both books 1 and 2 of the Independent Heart series are available now in paperback, Kindle, and Kindle Unlimited. So I hope you enjoy them if you read them. I've been told by readers they are both very cozy, relaxing reads, so perfect for this time of year. So I hope you enjoy them if you read them. Do let me know what you think of them. If you enjoy them, I would always appreciate reviews on Amazon and ratings on Amazon, but you can also reach out to me either through here on YouTube or on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, wherever you want to follow me. All the links are down below in the description box. I don't have a question for today, but in honor of the book launch and fall and all things cozy, you can leave me all your favorite cozy and fall related emojis in the comments below to let me know which of you lovely people have made it to the end of this video. If you enjoyed this video, do give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not subscribed, all of that great YouTube-y stuff, and I will see you all very soon in the next vlog. Thank you very much for watching this one. Bye!